Since the very start, the Dragons always looked down on David Tai. They never respected him, listened to him, and certainly did not fear him. But despite this, BTK was starting to make noise, and this did not please them. August 5th, 1989, David Tai goes shopping at 271 Canal Street, and as he's leaving the mall, 3 flying dragons approach him. One of the men starts yelling, "You think you're the big man, but nobody respects you. Nobody respects BTK." Then the dragons laugh in his face. So David looks at them and calmly tells them BTK violated it, plain and simple. And when the Chinatown leaders informed David Tai about this, he simply did not care. He didn't grow up in Chinatown, so the rules meant nothing to him. He had zero pride in the area or respect for its history. David was only there to feed his pockets and his love for power. But with that being said, the message was well received for some of the BTK members. In fact, they moved to Coney Island about 30 minutes away, and this is where they laid low and kept their money. But whenever they came to Chinatown, they were causing absolute chaos. In fact, one of their neighbors, who was an 89-year-old grandma, passed away due to Kenny Vu's recklessness. On top of this, BTK purposely ran in Flying Dragon's businesses without their masks on to let them know it was them. That includes the Cinta Lounge and many other gathering locations. BTK was becoming outrageously bad and never getting caught. For a long time, NYPD had stayed out of Chinatown's way. That's partly due to the power of the Tongs, but also because they never put civilians at risk. But BTK didn't have either of those qualities, which would later be important. But before NYPD would catch up to them, their madness would continue. And this time it started out of pure boredom. February 8th, 1990. David Tai pulls up to Winnie's Lounge on Bayard Street, a known Ghost Shadow hangout spot. He double parks his brand new Jaguar out front and walks in. He knows that he isn't supposed to be there, but that's the only reason he's there. At this point, he's trying his best to make a mockery out of Chinatown's establishments. So he sits down at a table by himself. Instantly, 4 ghost shadows surround him and ask him to leave respectfully. So he smiles at them, stands up, and walks out. He then meets up with a young BTK named Kui Tran. He passes him a tool and directs him into the restaurant. And there he goes. Tran runs outside, but little does he know 2 NYPD officers are right there waiting for him. After this reckless incident, Chinatown's godfather had seen enough. The 81-year-old hip Song Tong leader named Benny Ong called for a meeting with David Tai. Everything in Chinatown was about respect and honor. Benny was at the very top and David was far, far under him. David had to take this meeting, or else he had basically written off all of Chinatown's rules. And that's exactly what he decided to do. He skipped the meeting, which was the first time this had ever happened to Benny Ong. And this would not end well for David. June 26, 1990. Vin Vu, also known as Amigo, is closing up David's massage parlor on Canal Street. After he's done, he walks outside and right there is a man in black. Bang! This incident woke up BTK. It was Chinatown's first physical response to all the drama they had been causing. And for David Tai, Amigo was his right-hand man and most trusted partner. So shortly after, he arranged his burial. He decided to hold it at the Rosedale Memorial Park in Linden, New Jersey. He purposely held it over an hour away from the city, thinking that it was out of reach and unpredictable. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. June 29th, 1990. Everyone groups around to pay respects to Amigo. This includes some family, but most importantly, the entire BTK was there. Well, all of a sudden, a black van pulls up. Bang! Thankfully, things were okay, but David knew for certain now that he should have met with Benny Ong. And from here, they started hiding out in New Jersey and Coney Island to lay low and get a plan together. The community would call them on a daily basis, reporting that the ghost shadows are all over Chinatown looking for them. And this is when it became clear to David Tai that BTK would never be the top dog in Chinatown. This painful realization would end up being in his best interest. So he packed his bags and left Chinatown for good. Instead of operating how they used to, it was time to separate into smaller groups. So David sent his trusted associates to different cities. First, an associate named Fat Lamb moved to Bridgeport, Connecticut. This is a small city about an hour north of New York City. And there he operated a massage parlor that David Tai purchased. Then David moved to Hicksville, New York, which is a small middle-class suburban town about 45 minutes away. Other members moved to Gainesville, Georgia, Toronto, Canada, and a small section of eastern New Orleans. Well, back home in in Chinatown, everything was finally quiet. No more BTK to worry about. However, once a month, all the BTK would meet up in New York City and plan out their licks. Jewelry stores became their #1 target, and in 1991, they even scored 360,000 in one trip. And this is how David planned to take over this time around. With members spread all over the country having their own businesses, they could easily fly under the radar. Who could possibly guess that it was them doing the scores? They had all left the city, right? Wrong. Little did they know the FBI had been tracking them since early 1991. And in April 1992, BTK was indicted on dozens of charges. During the raids, they found a couple of things in David's possession, but that's it. So for the time being, David was confused on what they had caught him for. Well, in court, he found out that his right-hand man, Tim No, had been working for the FBI the entire year. Tim had been wearing wires and recording all of their confidential talks. And of course, this landed David Tai a life sentence. And here's the craziest part. If we go back, Tim No was the same guy who had pocketed the $1,000 back in 1989. So just in their first week of existence, he had already crossed BTK. So in retrospect, maybe David Tai should have gotten rid of him right off the bat. Well, after all, 20 members got between 10 and 60 years. Those who dodged the indictment either moved to the Versailles neighborhood of New Orleans or Doraville, Georgia.